Welcome to another episode of Sanford Says. My name is Lisa Holder, Communications Officer for the City of Sanford, and today's topic is Race, Equity, Equality, and Inclusion, the REEI Committee with the City of Sanford. And I have two wonderful guests with me today. Rachel Allen is the Director of Peace and Justice. She is the Institute's Director at Valencia State College. And we have Andrew Thomas, who is the City of Sanford's Director of Neighborhood Relations and Community Engagement. Welcome.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
So this is a celebration, Rachel, correct? We were mentioning about that earlier. We're sharing with people what it is. What is the REEI, the who, what, when, and where for this particular committee here, a new committee here in the City of Sanford?
Okay. Well, how did we get to the committee? Seems like time slips by so fast. It was in the summer of 2020 that a group approached the city about painting Black Lives Matter on the street and in Sanford, which was met with some opposition and some pushback, in part because of the location that was selected, and they wanted to paint Black Lives Matter. But after a lot of discussion, it said, well, is it such a bad idea? Is it the messaging or is it the location? And a group came together, an ad hoc group came together to have some discussions around, if there was messaging, what should that messaging say? How inclusive, should it be? And that's what started it. They came together and said, if this is not the place, then where? And what should it say? One of the suggestions that came out of that ad hoc group was that there should be a formal committee that should be formed to begin to look at this in a more holistic approach, and I'll use their words, was not a one and done. If you paint Black Lives Matter on the street, you paint it and it washes away, it's done. How do you carry that message forward, that Black Lives Matter? And the group, interestingly, kind of gelled. They began to come up with very creative suggestions. And eventually, the suggestions went back to the city manager and the mayor and the commission, and saying that, well, they wanted to go beyond Black Lives Matter. They wanted something that was more permanent, that represented inclusion, and also addressed the racial issue and the messaging of that. Out of that eventually came the Race, Equality, Equity, and Inclusion Committee to begin to address the issues that came out of this ad hoc committee.
Okay.
That's how we got to where we are.
All right. And so explain, Rachel, you're partnering. The Valencia College Peace and Justice Institute is partnering with the City of Sanford. You're leading us through this process, correct?
Yes, we are supporting this committee, and so we were brought in by the City of Sanford, the mayor and the commissioners, in partnership with Andrew Thomas's office, to help support the city in having this conversation and doing this work. So if this is going to be more than a one and done, what does it need to be? And so a committee has been established to begin to do the work of determining, what is this going to look like for the City of Sanford? So PJI, the Peace and Justice Institute, has been brought in to support the education of the committee, so helping develop them so they have some common language and common understandings of what we're talking about. What do we mean by equity, equality, and inclusion? And then also the committee can form itself in such a way as to be able to support the work that's going to be done with the community, because this really is community work.
Okay. And we have a committee of how many, and how are they chosen, and what is the role? What is the outcome? What do you think, Mr. Thomas?
Okay, let me start with how many's on the committee. We started with a committee of 17. Out of the committee of 17, we have about 11 that's very active and participating. We're looking at, is one of our concerns when we formed the committee is that if we had any gaps, that we wanted to be able, we being myself as the staff representative to it, along with the PGI staff, how do we fill those gaps? Because we need the committee to be as inclusive as possible as well, that committee models what it is that we're doing. so that we are looking now and bringing on additional people to it. So let's go out with the, with the committee. The goal of the committee is to take a look at the city of Sanford and do their assessment. It's their community. As I said to them the other day, it's their community. And from PJI, from my standpoint with the city, we're visiting what they live. And we look at their community and say, if there are any issues, if there's any concerns, if there's the injustices that are going on, if there's a lack of equity, if inclusion, where you're not feeling that you're included, that you're welcome, we need to hear from you. And that starts with the committee. But the committee, thanks to PJI, that we're going to build the capacity, the skills sets with them, that they can go to the broader community and ask this question.
Right.
So that we want to contact as many Sanford residents as we can, along with, we're working on a survey that will be going out as well.
Right.
So that we can cast a wide net, that's what we're hoping, as wide as possible, to get feedback from the greater community in terms of how do they see the city of Sanford when it comes to race relations?
Right.
How do they see the city of Sanford when it comes to injustice, inequalities? How do they see it when it comes to inclusion? Do you feel included? Do you feel that the city is inclusive? And as you know, sometimes we hear that some people are just not comfortable going into certain parts of the city of Sanford. And, often we'd hear, people of color saying, I just don't feel comfortable in downtown Sanford. Why is that? What is it? Because I think the city is opening, inviting, and welcoming. So if that's not being accomplished, although that's the intent, then let's talk about that. Because if you don't know what you're doing wrong, then you can't change it.
Right.
So.
And I think we embrace diversity here in the city of Sanford, and we are diversity, and I think that's what makes us so wonderful. And you had mentioned earlier, Rachel, about this is a celebration, and can you speak to that?
Well, I think any time a group, a community, a city is willing to enter into this conversation and say, we're ready to talk about it, that's something to celebrate.
It is.
Because oftentimes, people are afraid to talk about it. Because what if we hear some things we don't like? But PJI operates off of a set of principles that really encourage all voices to be heard, and how important that is. And one of the principles is to make space for unpopular answers. And so when we're together having this dialogue, which we'll be doing together as a city with residents and even hopefully some of the people that visit Sanford, some people might say things that surprise others, or people feel uncomfortable, like, uh-oh, here we go, conflict, tension. But at PJI, we say, okay, this is where we need to be, because this is real.
Right.
This is authentic. And we need to hear these things, talk about them in a constructive way, so that we can begin to address them, again, in a constructive way. Because if the goal is inclusion, equity, for people to feel a sense of belonging, we really do have to hear from people if that's not happening.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so what is the difference between equity and equality? What's in general?
Well, equal would be assuming that we're going to hand something out to everybody and it's going to work for everybody. So let's just use a bicycle, for example.
Yeah.
So we've got this great 10-speed bicycle, and it's this certain height, and it's made in such a way, and so we're going to give one to everybody. Isn't that great?
Yeah,
That's
I have one
equity.
in my car right now.
Right. Okay, but what about our neighbor who is 3 years old and just learning to ride a bike? That 10-speed, although we've been so generous and equal, it's not going to help her. What about our neighbor who is in a wheelchair? That bicycle isn't going to serve. What about our neighbor who's 7'2" tall? That bicycle, it might help a couple of people. So equitable distribution would be to give a bicycle or some kind of mobile device that helps all of our neighbors and friends. And so it invites us to slow down, be a little more intentional, ask more questions, and be open to learning. Maybe we don't understand everything about bicycles yet, and we need to learn more.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Do you want to add to that, Mr. Thomas?
No, Rachel's right on the money on that one. It's whatever you're giving out, it has to meet the need of the individual that you're giving it to. So your needs your abilities may be different than mine, may be different from Rachel. So to give us all the same may not be what we need. So if you got to spend time getting to know our needs and what we need. Because a great example, because if you're giving out one size 10-speed bicycle to everybody, not everybody benefits from that.
Right.
So then you really don't have an equitable distribution of a good or a resource that you think you have. So you have to go into and got to drill down a little bit deeper.
Right.
And sometimes it costs you a little bit more to do that.
Right.
But if you're going to be equitable, you have to be prepared to ask those tough questions and then be prepared to meet the needs that you've identified in that process.
Right. So, and just to add on to that, say you don't even know you can ride a bike, but you don't know how to, or you're learning how.
So we might
ride
have to
it.
provide some
Precisely.
services for some people on
Yeah.
how to utilize this tool we're giving out.
Yeah.
And it's because in the end, for Rachel Allen from the Peace and Justice Institute, I mean, our goal would be to have a citizenry where everyone's thriving. Because in that scenario, we hold each other up. We support one another. There is a community of mutual support and strength. And that's what I want. That's the community I want to live in. So this work is really about that, creating a community where all of its residents and visitors can be supported and thrive.
Right. So.
Yeah. I was going to add to what Rachel's saying in terms of the importance of this work. Probably one of the fastest growing jobs you'll find both in the private and public sectors, DEI officers, diversity, equity, and inclusion, because pretty much as a nation, we're beginning to realize that the equity that we thought was there, the inclusion we thought was there, is not there.
Mm-hmm.
So the companies are becoming very intentional about addressing it, and you're putting somebody in charge of it that's responsible for it. And you're going to find it both in local city government. You're going to find it in our major corporations that they're bringing in DEI. Some are not only bringing in officers, but they're bringing in entire departments to begin to look at what do you need to do in this work environment, be it a municipality, be it a university, or what have you, in order to ensure that there's equity and that there's inclusion. And diversity, because most people think about diversity as diversity with regards to color. Diversity goes much, much farther than that.
Right.
It's something that can drill into the whole issue, diversity, inclusion, and equity.
And so, how long is this process going to approximately take? Do we know? And what at the end of this process, what is going to be the end result, or what you're hoping for, and where does it go from there?
So currently we're developing the committee, and developing meaning educating together, so that we do have this common language, common kind of theoretical frameworks from which to move forward, and that they know one another. Because having conversations about equity, inclusion, race, gender, sexual orientation, it takes some comfort level, I think, to have authentic conversation, and we wanted the committee to have that. We will be having meetings that will be announced, and people can participate, they can show up, they can give public comment, and we welcome that. And what we will be planning are 3 community speak outs. And this is where we need you, anybody who's listening, to show up and bring your neighbors and bring your friends, because this is where you will be given some of the same tools that the committee's being given, some of the same education, and then an opportunity to tell the committee what is needed, what is missing, what's needed, what's working, and where we want to see growth. Because ultimately, these speak outs will be put together in a report and given to the commission and the mayor, and they will move forward with the recommendations of this report. And I do want to say something about this mayor who came to our kickoff, is that he was very clear with us. If there's something that emerges before the report is turned in, which might be 6 months down the road, he said, don't wait 6 months. If there's something we can begin doing now, let us know, because we want to get started. And I say that because that told me the seriousness of this commitment to this committee and to this work, that he said, let's get started now. So we'll do that. If we have something that the committee agrees on and they think that needs to go forth to the mayor and the commissioners before, say, April, when the final report is due, we will do that.
Okay. And you're working on a survey for those people that may not be able to get here, correct? You talk about
Yes,
equity.
we are.
And so there's a way for people that can participate online. There's information about these programs at the Peace and Justice Institute website, correct? And look
Yes.
for information on the city website, sanfordfl.gov, in the coming days.
In the coming days,
Yes. Yeah. Anything else that you'd like to add, Mr.
Yeah,
Thomas?
Yeah, let me just add, is one of the reasons that we brought PJI on is because of their background, their experience in doing this, that although they work in Central Florida, they have a national reputation for doing what they're doing and bringing that kind of resource to the city of Sanford. I mean, we was fortunate that they are,
Sure.
so close by. And in putting it together, I mean, it's truly a team effort. And we meet weekly as a staff to talk about how to design and move this process forward. And I think that, and with this, and one of the things we failed to mention is that we have 2 co-chairs for this committee. And the co-chairs work along with the facilitators in terms of, because in going through the group process, we know that our co-chairs are ones that we feel the committee can relate to. They're out of the community, and helping them until they become comfortable with the facilitators, with PJI, but they're feeling that if there's something that is just not clicking for them,
Right.
that they have someone they can have that conversation with. And we've worked on building that relationships with the facilitators and with the co-chairs, that they're comfortable, so that we're all working together, so that we kind of corral the synergy of the people to move this process forward.
And who are those co-chairs?
The co-chairs are Dr. Velma Williams and attorney Jeffrey's last name is...
We're both going to forget.
We're both going to, yeah. Anyway, he's the CEO of Mid-Florida Legal Services.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay, that's good to know. And then also, you had mentioned about Peace and Justice Institute. You are still a board member, or you've done your work too with PJI,
I've been with PJI.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
So you come with a wealth of experience as well
Yeah.
as a city employee in this role. So,
Yes, I do the work that Rachel and the staff's been doing over there. It's awesome work.
Yeah.
They've been doing, and this is Rachel's baby. I mean, she's nurtured this
All right.
and brought it along to where it is now.
You mean the
And,
institute itself?
the insti-
Okay.
yes.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, essentially she gave birth to it, and she's nurtured it and gotten quite
How
a reputation.
long has
So-
the Peace and Justice Institute been in
Well, a small
existence?
group of people came together in 2008 to ask the question, what would peace look like in justice at Valencia College? And so while I have been a steady, I want to say force in this work, it is work that has grown up and really been led by faculty and staff and students across the college, and now leaders across the community and the region. So we have been fortunate to be supported by people like Andrew Thomas, who have a long history of doing this work of equity and community building in cities and in municipalities. So PJI has been blessed because it is the power of people coming together in honesty and commitment to community.
Yeah.
And it's Jeffrey
Harvey.
Bleidenberg, who's
Yeah.
our
Harvey.
civil rights lawyer.
Jeffrey Harvey.
Thankfully, the cell phones are mini
They're
computers.
amazing.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
Jeffrey Harvey?
Jeffrey
Now you're gonna
Harvey.
have to-
Yes.
It's all we appreciate all the work that what everybody is doing here in the city of Sanford. And any other words, Rachel, that you'd like to add? How maybe any words of encouragement if people are the speak out you talk about, but what they can do themselves in our city to make the day a better day.
When I think of Sanford, I mean, I think of the work that you all have done. You know, going through the death of Trayvon Martin, the way this city held itself and held one another with the nonviolence, with with listening to one another. I mean, important movements in the country were birthed out of that tragedy, and Sanford, I believe, was such a leader in that moment. And so I'm proud of Sanford, and I think this is Sanford's moment to continue this work, to continue to be a leader. Sanford is a small municipality, right? But it's going to show other small municipalities across this country what really is possible when we come together and do the work of dialogue and honesty and a commitment to inclusion. So I'm grateful, very grateful to be a part of it. Peace and Justice Institute is honored to
Yes.
partner with City of Sanford in this work. Thank you.
So that's wonderful words of encouragement for those listening and for me personally. Mr. Thomas, did you want to say last words on this, on the REEI committee? By the way, you'll be hearing a lot of that acronym, REEI. So now you know what it
REEI.
means, right?
Yes, yes. As has been mentioned before, there will be an opportunity to hear from the broader community. We hope that you do come out and participate. The essence of this whole report and this initiative is to hear from the broader community. So when we have the speak outs, please come out. There will be information out both on the city's website. If you have questions, by all means, give us a call. And you can call my number directly.
Which is?
And it's 407-688-5132.
I knew that, so in case you didn't, I knew
In case
it.
you was ready for it, okay, Lisa. And we'll get back to you and let you know when and where the speak outs will be taking place.
Yeah, we'll surely share that information on City Facebook for sure and social media and have it on our website when we get to that. But that's a
Yes.
great opportunity for you as a listener to get involved and to have your voice heard in this very important initiative that the City of Sanford is so courageously taking on. So, well, that's, I guess there you have it. Rachel Allen, the director of the Peace and Justice Institute at Valencia College, right down the road, right? In what campus are you at?
The PJI is housed on the Winter Park campus.
Okay, so not far, right down the road. And we have Andrew Thomas, whose office is right down the hallway here at City Hall, the Director of Community Relations and Neighborhood Engagement. Thank you for listening to our episode on the Race, Equity, Equality, and Inclusion Committee, newly formed committee here at the City of Sanford. This is Lisa Holder, Communications Officer for the City of Sanford. Thank you again. You can find this podcast wherever you subscribe to your favorite podcast and on the city website at sanfordfl.gov. Thank you. Have a great day and happy holidays and
Thank
a happy
you.
New
Thank you.
Year.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now.